Hey, welcome back. You're in the C Space Studio, sponsored by Integral Ad Science. I am James Kotecki, and this is CES 2025. And we are very excited to be joined by a returning guest, Amanda Richman, this time in a new role, VP Global Media Sales at Microsoft. Welcome back, Amanda.
Thank you. Great to be here again, James.
So what brings you to CES 2025? You said, we were talking before this, you've been to CES
number
before.
12,
yeah.
I swear,
Lucky
exactly,
12,
and a
Baker's
nice
dozen.
shift.
Yeah.
Used to be back in the day, as we were saying, Digital Tribe would be doing the tours
Yeah.
and just talking about the future, and now we're all here in grown-up positions.
Exactly.
And living the future.
Yes.
And trying to get faster to it, maybe, in the world of AI.
So what kind of future are you living? What are you up to?
This is an amazing place right now to start the year for all of us to talk about the what's next and the what's now. And at the center of that, I think in every conversation is about AI and what's happening and where's the experimentation, where are the opportunities. But how does that move us from today and some of our focus on efficiency to the tomorrow and what that looks like?
Yeah. So tell me about, maybe I want to talk about today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
So tell me about the cutting edge of what's possible today from where you sit at Microsoft.
We haven't started to see the cutting edge, honestly. The focus so much has been on the first days of developing habits in our own people and in opportunities with consumers and understanding what could the ad models look like, doing some early research and learnings, understanding what the commercialization of that would look like, and building that habit, fortunately from the starting point of just efficiencies and looking at those opportunities of creating time and space for people, but with the notion of unlocking creativity and human potential down the road. And that's a field of constant experimentation, and that's the mindset that we need for marketers as well.
I like the idea of, I like the notion of habit. Does that imply that there's some habits that you or others need to break, or maybe that you want to share that we all need to kind of break? Are there certain mentalities that we're still struggling against as we don't even fully realize the power of what we have?
For us, it's creating the habit with use of Copilot every day in our everyday work and life, and making sure that you're very intentional about thinking about that, not just related to a task, but making a part of how you operate and how you get things done.
Yeah.
The risk is also that we get too fast down the road of how do we optimize today's workflow and tasks, when actually this has the opportunity to completely reinvent businesses, reinvent how we work, how we actually move from a product concept to ideation. So to not get into the micro optimization, but to pull back,
I like that.
Takes us from habit to real impact.
And that's what we're trying to do here in the C Space Studio, is to pull back and think about those broad themes. So then, if we pull back a little bit then, what are you excited about, some things that we'll be able to do in the near to midterm future that maybe we can't quite do right now?
You know what I'm starting to see more of, and this isn't necessarily midterm, but just the notion of how do we unlock potential in people around ideation with the human element almost as a bookend.
Yeah.
We talk about this with the creative process, right? You still need the craft and the talent and leadership to create great messaging, but much of that process can then move to more automation and pulling in data and helping to form insights, but still a craft at the end too, before going live, to make sure that lives true to what we think consumer expectations are. So that level of unlocking thinking and creativity is maybe getting closer to a midpoint. And certainly still very human involved and unlocking their potential.
Yeah, I had a moment in 2024 where I was using AI to ideate something or create something, and it came up with this idea that I felt an emotion, a spark in me of, oh my gosh, this is how I actually feel when I'm collaborating with a human being. And it was weird in some ways and unsettling, but it was really remarkable that it's at that point. And it's interesting too that you're kind of defining this as an epoch of needing to remind ourselves and get into the habit of using generative AI, Copilot in your case, every day. It's kind of like back in the day, people maybe who weren't trained on just searching for something would be like, oh, I forgot, I can just search for it instead of just asking someone who might not know the answer. The idea that, oh, now there's an app on your phone that's for everything now. And so now we're getting into this new mindset. So
exactly, and you're training it every time that you're working with it, right? So it's getting smarter, it's reading these signals, it's becoming more of your personal companion. And fast forward to the future, then an agentic marketplace. Now you've built your own agent, maybe multiple agents represent your different states of mind or ways of working or personal and work life. How does that then interact with other agents from brands, marketers, et cetera? And to have that exchange where it's seeking out the information, the deals, the value that you're looking for.
So if you send Amanda AI agent out into the world to do a task for you, how do you start to build trust within yourself that like, oh, I really trust, because there's one thing to have a quick chat with a chatbot. It's another thing to say, okay, agent who is kind of like me in some capacity, go out into the world and do something for me and report back, and you're kind of be my avatar and represent me. So how do you start, is there a step process to try and getting people to trust this more?
That comes back to trusting with, we believe, the company and the product through experimentation.
Yeah.
And at Microsoft, we think we're sitting in a really great spot because people trust Microsoft. We take AI very responsibly and very seriously when it comes to responsible AI principles. All the code we ship, all the interactions we have in developing product and more, keeps in mind accountability and fairness, responsibility, privacy, security.
Yeah.
And we think that trust, building that into people's habits of use and proving out the value gets us there faster.
So I've got my agents out in the world. I'm using AI in a responsible way, but I'm getting to be really creative with it. Does the future of work still feel like work? Is the definition of work really going to change in some of these roles?
Yeah, definition of work has been changing so much from a post-COVID lens, right, in how we work and where we work. But now this notion of what does it do when we define work, I think unlocks the potential to say where are we making impact, where are we using and unlocking our superpowers, and what things can Copilot do in that case to actually free up more time for that.
Yeah.
It should feel less like work and how it used to be framed, and hopefully more like unlocking your potential and making sure that you're contributing in a different way than you would have before.
I want to talk about gaming, which obviously Microsoft is all over as well. How is gaming evolving from your perspective as the VP of Global Media Sales? And what are some of the trends that you're looking at as the year and the years to come go on?
So this may be the anti-trend, but we're sitting in a world of 3.4 billion gamers. So too often marketers still see gaming as innovation and innovation budgets, or as a trend. This is where the reach is. And increasingly, this is where community is.
Yeah.
You talk to anyone who's a gamer, they're logging on and they're connecting with friends, defining friends they've never met in person, but they're building relationships with.
Yeah.
And so for marketers to understand that reach and engagement potential and really go all in, not thinking of it only as gaming in a console environment, but how it's across an entire ecosystem of PC, mobile, console. Right. And obviously we sit on top of that with Activision Blizzard King and Xbox and Microsoft Casual Games to knit that all together and help support that community. And
then of course the ways that that can and will interact with AI and generative AI is potentially mind-boggling.
Exactly. Ultimately it's about better consumer experiences, better gamer experiences, and that's what we hope Copilot will unlock when we start to embed that as well.
Yeah. I want to ask you about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Are some, there's an interesting moment that we're at right now, culturally, politically, as businesses. Where does Microsoft stand on that in a world where maybe some positions are changing around that?
Yeah. You know, companies may be backing away from DEI, Microsoft is not. Leaders don't back away from DEI, and our commitment to inclusivity is stronger than ever. You cannot grow a business without embracing inclusivity. You cannot grow at the rate that we believe is possible without having diverse perspectives and people within your organization and fully supporting them so they can be working at their best.
Yeah, and is that especially resonant for you? It sounds like, when you gave that answer, you seemed pretty passionate about it.
Exactly, and I think Microsoft attracts people that are passionate about that, about creating opportunities for people and making sure that we're understanding the consumers, which is the world in our case, and true to our mission, which is to empower people and every person, every organization to achieve more.
Speaking of personal empowerment, I looked in your bio and your LinkedIn page. I think you were self-employed for a moment before you got this new role. Did being out on your own give you a new perspective on the world of work, or any new perspectives there?
Absolutely. The ear to the ground, the understanding and having different conversations across the marketplace and the whole ecosystem, from a personal level to see where can I make the biggest impact, but to understand what are the needs of marketers at a different level, and how can we actually network across an amazing community of people in this industry who all show up at CES and all want to make the world better and figure out how to continue to advance technology in the name of humanity.
Yeah, by the way, speaking of LinkedIn, another Microsoft product, Microsoft entity, we are live on LinkedIn right now. I assume that LinkedIn growth, I assume that that's another thing that you're bullish about?
Absolutely. I mean, we had a great milestone at Microsoft advertising last year of 18 billion, inclusive of LinkedIn, inclusive of search and news, so a growth engine and a phenomenal company.
So wait, 18 billion what?
In ad revenue.
18 billion in ad revenue. I was like, it's not 18 billion people because we're not at that number of people yet. But I mean, it seems like you are reaching a huge majority, or a huge swath of people on the planet. So kudos to you for that. Is there another question that you think I should ask people here in the C Space Studio? You're a two-time guest, so I think you especially have to answer this question.
We're at the shift of AI not as the hype cycle anymore, but into the reality. And so this notion of how do you move from actually thinking of it philosophically as the potential to the actual practice. So asking people, How are you using it? What are some examples of where you're starting to drive AI and integrate it into your organizations, into your workflow, how AI is driving growth for your business? Probing there to get real examples that we can all not only build on and share and hopefully then grow faster with.
Yeah, I see trends rise and fall here in the C Space Studio after doing it for 8 years, but I am suspicious that AI may be a trend that I just keep talking about with my guests forever at this point.
We certainly hope so. We think it's absolutely transformational, and we think Microsoft being at the center of that with Copilot is super exciting.
Well, Amanda Richman from Microsoft, thanks for coming back to the C Space Studio. We always like to hear from you.
Thank you for having me. Hope I'll be back next year as well.
Come on back. And please, you come on back as well, because we've got many more of these great conversations coming your way. This is the C Space Studio. I'm James Kotecki, and it's CES 2025.